Hello my friends, welcome back to a new up-close video with Hero Arts. This month I have got the I Pick You collection, and this has a really cute theme of apples. The fall apples, I love it. So I got the complete collection of this one. So for this first one, it's a stamp and die set called Apple Branch. So I'll go ahead and take this stamp set out. I actually got the other two out and I didn't take this one out. So let me grab this right here and show you it up close. This has a really pretty font and our sentiments are thank you. I couldn't have picked a better friend and you're the sweetest. And we've got this really pretty, nice sized apple branch. We have the little apple buds around here. And you have the complete die set as well. Now, these you can buy just the stamp set, or you can get the die set as well. And I love that the dies have the stamps for the sentiments. That is always nice. Now, this stamp set is, let me just see, from leaf to leaf, we're looking at about 5 inches from here to here, and about 3 inches here to here. So it just gives you an idea roughly on size. So that is our first set, the Apple Branch stamp and die. Then we have two stamp and stencils, stamp die and stencil options. This first one here is in the orchard, and this is quite unusual. Well, let me just show you on this one. Since it's colored, this is the stencil. It's a 3-layered stencil, and you've got these stamps which can create a scene. So here is this stamp set, and these are little tiny apples, but the tree is full and ready for the picking. So here's our little cute basket. We've got the boots, the ladder that you can lean up here because this does have the coordinating dies. So you can make the complete scene, and the sentiments also have the sentiment dies, and it says, I'd pick you every time. I love the puns with the pick part. Hang in there, and a bad apple doesn't spoil the bunch. Love that. The basket is all full of the apples, and going to the orchard is always fun. We have some orchards in North Georgia, so you can go to the orchard and pick your own apples. So that one does have the stencil available. Then this is another one with a stencil, which I find really fun looking. And this one cuts out the background die, and then we get to stencil it up. So I think we're going to play with this one today in the video. I think this one will be really fun to add color and detail to. And then you've got the excess dies as well to be able to pop on top for dimension. So I think this will be beautiful. Now this one is called Apple Frame. 8 cutting dies. And then check out the sentiments, because these are nice, big, and bold sentiments. You've got, have a delicious day. You deserve a whole orchard of thanks. And you're so golden. Wouldn't that be great for a 50th wedding anniversary? You're so golden. I love that. You could totally do that. You're so golden and put 50 under it for the wedding anniversary. Then the little one says, don't be afraid to go out on a limb. That's where the fruit is. And that was from Mark Twain. And then this is an unknown. Although you can count the seeds in an apple, it is impossible to count the apples in a seed. So true, so true. All right, so I'm going to get my supplies out and we will jump in and play with this one. All right, friends, I've decided that we are going to make 2 separate cards with these products. When looking closely at these products, I noticed a difference between them. They do coordinate, where the stencil will line up on top of your die cut. But I noticed that the stencil is quite larger than the die cut. Even though they coordinate, you can go bigger with the stencil. So I've decided to go ahead and stencil out the stencil alone. And I've already pre-done a sentiment there on the top right with heat embossing. And we are going to go ahead and do Golden Delicious Apples on this one. So we're using Altenew Fresh Dye inks, and we're going to go one at a time and do some Golden Delicious Apples. Then we're going to turn it into a 5x7 card. That's stretching our supplies more than intended because the actual die cut is only A2, but the stencil is large enough that it can be stretched to a 5x7 card. Now, the actual layering stencil set that we're using here is actually measuring 5.25 by 6.5. It's because the leaves themselves extend larger than the actual die set. The die set is a cover plate, which you'll see because we're going to use it in the second card. But I wanted to experiment with this because I thought it would give you a closer look at the products and show you the versatility of them. Also, if you don't enjoy die cuts, you have a stenciling option, and vice versa. If you're not a stenciler, you might enjoy the die cut option alone. So it's showing you two other ways to use this set. Now, of course, you can do the regular way, which would be die cut the white image from the die set and then put the stencils on top. That would be the traditional way to do this. But we aren't being traditional today. We are going to be a little different and see where it takes us. So I have already done the first 2 layers of the apples. I did it in a light yellow and then came in just with a tiny bit of light green to be able to give it just a little contrast. I didn't want to take away from the yellow, so I didn't go over that second layer completely. Now I'm using flat brushes, stencil brushes from Altenew. I like these because they have very short bristles and they're very controllable. Sometimes you can get this flat type of bristle, but they're longer and they aren't as controllable. That's what I like about Altenew's brushes. Now, we've just done that first layer of green, and I want you to notice that I have 3 greens here, but we're only going to end up using 2 of them. And that's actually by accident. I actually forget to change the greens over. But you'll get to see what happens in the results. It's actually not even necessary to use that 3rd color. If you're on a budget and you don't want to spend as much money, this is giving you an option. It's giving you an option to not get every single color, but still have the option to get the colors you need. By choosing 2 of the 4, you can get 3 colors out of them. So let me show you here as we line these up. I'm struggling a little bit, but I have actually put little marks in the corners on my sticky mat, and I was lining them up to make sure they're lined up there. And that's okay. It gave me a chance to catch up with my talking. But we have the second green now, and I'm not going all the way out to the end right now. I'm just going around the apple itself, leaving the tips a little lighter. That's how I'm starting this, to see what I like, see if I like it or not. Sometimes you don't have to go all the way to the end. You can leave more of a highlight on the tip. But in this case, we're going to check it out and see what it looks like. So I'm going to fill this one here in on the corner and see what it looks like. It's a little darker. That's the way it's intended right there, whereas the other ones are lighter. I kind of like the darker one. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and darken them all. But you notice how they're on the apples themselves. I didn't darken it all. I just used a tiny bit of green and didn't fill the whole thing in. That allowed me to keep the majority of the apple yellow with just a tiny, tiny bit of green on the second layer. I didn't go all in and fill in the whole apple on that second layer. That would have darkened up all my yellow and turned it to green. And we didn't want that. We just wanted a little bit of a shadow there. But for this, I decided to go ahead and fill in all of this layer to give us more of a pow contrast. So now we'll go to the next layer, and here is where I forget to change over. This is the absolute darkest detailed layer of these leaves, the veins. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to color in the veining, and I'm going to try to mask off here at the beginning the wood area of the stems, the brown area. And I'm going to be kind of selective here and ink around where the darkest color should be of the greens. And I end up giving up and I end up going ahead and just being careful. But I do try it here for a little bit, and then I just go ahead and just like, heck with it. I'm just gonna do it type of thing. But now if you notice, my paper is a little smaller than my stencil. I did that purposely. I trimmed it shorter so that I'd have a little area to stick to my mat. Now that isn't a whole lot of area on either side. That is about 1/4 inch. It's not quite enough to get it stuck really, really strong. So you'll see occasionally I have to readjust my stencil. And that's just because I don't have enough of it touching the sticky mat. If I was to go smaller, it would have more. So I'm giving up on the sticky tape. We're not masking anymore. I'm just going for it. Sometimes I just get impatient, guys. So we're just going to attempt to miss the branches. And we do pretty darn good, I may say. So we're just filling in the colors here. And this ended up being a long video, which is why we're doing the voiceover. I wanted to make sure you got to see both cards in their entirety. So I hope that's okay. But I wanted you to make sure you got to see them both, because the second one is, see there I'm pointing out that dark green, look at there. The dark green, it looks like we used it, but we didn't. I forgot to use the Shadow Creek color. But because they're translucent, when I layered the grass fields over itself, it turned darker green. So you really don't even need to purchase the Shadow Creek if you don't have the money and the budget for it. Now, will it go darker? Absolutely. Absolutely. Just like a lighter one will go lighter. But if you're careful with your pressures and things like that, you can get away with it. So sometimes you could go with the lightest and then the third and, get a similar result as well. So this is our plan right here. I just need to do the brown, and then we will be able to go on with our next one. Now, there's a sentiment there I'm going to put in the middle, and it just really kind of touched my heart when I looked at it. It kind of made me think of where I'm at right now in our moving process. So I'm going to actually put that one on the inside of the card. You'll see that at the end of the video. But I'm going to go ahead and get this brown going, and we will do the wooden areas or branch areas. I'm washing off the stencil right there. But we will do the branch areas and get them stenciled up nicely. You have to be careful on this one too now, because there's lots of those green vein areas. So this time we're doing the opposite. We're going in just where the branches are. So I have to be careful, but we just go slow. Now I could go with a smaller blender brush, but I decided just to go for it. Just be really careful and take my time. It's another reason why it's probably good that I sped this up a little bit for you, so you're not here all day. But I absolutely love stenciling. I find it very, very relaxing. It's very easy, and the results are, oh, I slipped. The results are very rewarding with stenciling. You can get lots of definition and different colors, and it really does step up your card making. So if you haven't gotten into stenciling yet, you might want to consider it. It's something it's really been a highlight of my card making. So I'm just going to go through here and finish these up, and then we will move on to the next card. Now let's see how this turns out here for the reveal. There we go. Look at there. Not too bad. So the sentiment will be in the middle and then it'll be ready to go. I'll just trim it down and put it in a card base. I think I'll layer it up a little bit. Alrighty, for card number 2, I have also done a different sentiment for the center, and I'm just showing you the 2 different sets there. And that's the die set. It comes with all these little pieces, and I've cut everything out of white. So I'm going to go ahead. The only thing I didn't cut in white is the little tiny yellow centers for the center of these white flowers here. Now I'm going to use just a little bit of Arctic ink, which is lightest blue color, and I'm just going to ink up the centers of these little tiny flowers to give them a little definition. And then I'm going to glue on the little yellow centers that I die cut out for these little flowers. So it'll be real quick. I didn't have my pick tool. It actually was on the floor, if you can believe that. Okay, if you've seen my crafty room videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. Yes, we can believe that. But it was on the floor. It is back where it belongs now. I have found it and put it away. But so we got those flowers done. And now for this, because we're not using the stencil, we're going to just use blender brushes and kind of go free with it. For the apples, we're not going to worry about what it looks like right now. We're just going to mark where they're at with a little bit of red. Okay, this is the lighter of the 2 reds. And I'm just going to come in here with my round brush and kind of place them where they're at. That way, when I'm using the green to do all the rest, I'm not constantly looking for the apples, because we're going to cover those apples up with some inked individual apples and put them on top. So right now, I just want to see where they're at rather than being all white. So now we're going to go with the lightest green and we're going to ink the leaves. We're just going to go in here and give them a layer of color. That's all I'm doing. This is not super hard. I am trying to miss the stems as much as possible, but even if you get the stems a little bit, it's okay, because we're going to go over them with Copic marker at the end to just make them brown and dark, and it's going to cover up this pale green. So nothing to worry about. Don't be that concerned over it. You will want to make the edges even green because we're going to trim this down, and baby, it trims down to exactly an A2. You have to be really careful and trim it down carefully. But it's gorgeous when it's trimmed down. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to go around the edges and just make sure all of it's green here, so we have a solid border around our card. So I'm just going over it. It's actually going to be kind of a multicolored green, but all of it blends together so nicely because we're going to take the grass field there in just a second and give the leaves a deeper color, just so they aren't flat and one colored. We're going to come in with a second color. So it's going to look a little messy to start with, and that's okay. But the way it ends is what matters, right? So now we're just going to come in and give these leaves a little dimension with a darker ink. I'm going from the bottom of the leaves and kind of flicking out towards the tip of the leaf when possible. Sometimes the leaves are in a location where you can't really do that, and you just have to attempt to. But here again, it's not going to matter when you're done. Even if you get some of the green in the red, it's still not going to matter because those apples, after we ink them on the right there in the tray, are going to cover it up. So it's going to look finished and polished once we cover up at the end. So just have fun with this. Think of it as a free moment and just ink away and make sure there's lights and darks And when you can, keep the tips of your leaves the lighter color. So I've gone all the way around, and at first I was going to darken it all the way around too, but I decided not to. So there we go with our inking. I'm going to go back in with our lighter color, and I'm just going to kind of blend those two together a little bit where it's rough. Anywhere where it's like a harsh line, I'm just going in with the lightest green and just blending a little bit. That way those two will seamlessly blend together and you'll have light to dark. That's all that I'm doing there. And as it dries back, it blends beautifully. I love that about dye inks. Looks like a hot mess, doesn't it? Here again, I did not use that darkest color. Okay, now we're going to do our apples. Got to clean the surface real quick. I have not pulled any of this out and edited it. It's been a really busy time here in the Smith household, and we're leaving on vacation soon, so I've been trying to get a lot done around here. So we are going to first take the lightest color, and we're going to blend from the bottom about 3/4 of the way up, being heavier handed on the bottom of the apple, but leaving the top of the apple white. This is going to give us our white highlight at the end of the inking. It's preserving your highlight because you want a good contrast here from light to dark to make your apple look round. So we're starting at the bottom, and remember to make sure you begin inking off the paper and ink onto the paper. Don't start on the paper or you'll get a harsh mark. You get a harsh circle mark on your paper, and you can blend them out. I actually did it on the top left one there, and I'll still blend it out a little bit. Now this darker one, I'm just focusing on the very bottom rim, and that one is where the red mark is. I was just pointing that out, but I was able to blend it just fine. And now that's all we're going to do with those. As they dry, they will dry perfectly and they will look just like little apples when we add them to our project. So again, make sure you clean your space. Now watch here, red is the hardest color to get off these craft mats, but I bring in the LDRS Extreme Clean and it comes off like nobody's business. So if you do not have your LDRS Extreme Clean, you can grab it at www.ldrscreative.com and use my coupon code Melanie15 to get 15% off your purchase. That's an evergreen code, so you can use it anytime you shop. Now for the leaves, we are going to do the exact same thing, but only with greens for these leaves as we did the apples. Going to start with our lightest color. We're going to leave a little less of a highlight on the tips, but we're still going to leave a little white on the tips of these. Now my mat's a little bit wet, so that's why that wasn't sticking too good. But I'm moving on. I do not want to waste your time today. I want you to get as much as you can get in this video. Seeing as much as I can cram in 30 minutes, I'm giving you. So leave your little tips of your leaves white to preserve that highlight. I didn't leave as much as the apples, but I still left it. Then come in. Remember, start off the paper and ink on to the paper, and you'll get a better blend. Now I'm just coming in from the bottom, coming straight up about halfway. Now if you have a harsh line, then just get the ink off of your brush, lighten it up, and blend at the separation where the line is, and you will easily blend that with an uninked brush. You just want lighter ink on there. So now we'll bring our background in, and we will begin building our card. First, I'm going to trim this down. And I'm checking the size of it here because I want it to be the exact 5.5 this way. So I'm going to make sure that there's a little bit of border on top and bottom, and I do mean a little bit. You don't get a lot, but it is perfect for an A2. So just pay attention to your lines. This way it'll be 1 or 4 1/4. And now we'll have the last cut. And there we go. Now just notice that the brightness of my lights there are in the reflection, so I'll make sure I get those turned off here shortly. Just like that. Sorry about that, guys. So that's how it's going to fit exactly on there. Just perfect. So now you just put these around the edges and see where you're going to want them. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of build it here without actually gluing, just to do our layout together. And then I'll go off screen to actually glue it to save on time. But I'm just kind of organizing these by size, because some of them are bigger than others. So you just need to kind of look at the details on them to get them to fit the way you want them to, and to make sure your areas are covered up if you've made any boo-boos, which I just had one really that was really outside of the lines, or really, showed where, the brown had gotten in to the green and the green got into the red right there. Yep, so I'm trying to cover it up, and you can cover up a bunch of this because you have all these things that you're putting on top of this, so everything can be covered. That's why I was saying don't worry about your inking. Be free, have fun, and that's why you just use that little red as a place marker. And now if you've made a mistake anywhere, you've got all these leaves to be able to tuck and maneuver around, and then you still have the flowers. And on the video part itself at the end, I even forget the flowers, but on the final video, the final photo, the final share, I do have the flowers to share with you. So I'm just kind of going around and randomly tucking these where I think they'll look pretty. And it's just fun. It's just fun to just play with it and see what will look pretty where. Some have 2, some have 1. That one I kind of sticked out to the center. And I'll need to bring the sentiment down and see how it fits, and then change things around a little bit, because I want to make sure the sentiment still fits in the center of my card. But it's so fun to kind of design and play around with all of these different pieces. It's like a little puzzle. So you see, I need to move that. And that's when I decide to turn this around. And even though it's upside down from the photo on the package, I still like it better this way because of the placement of the apples in my sentiment. So, and you can always turn your apples around if you don't like them one way or another, but they do fit pretty well on the actual base. But now at this point, I can move the leaves to where I want them when I glue them down. So now we're going to take the Copic marker, and I'm just going to color this in, and color the stems part in all the way around. Super simple. And here again, if you go out the lines any, it's okay, because your leaves can cover them. See, it went out just a tiny bit there. That's what I was showing you. But there's not a whole lot of leaves. A whole lot of stems. It's just a little bit. But it just, all the little added details make a difference. So here's the card finished. I used a background from my background stash from throughout the year. I just had it already pre-made. And on this is the other one I had finished. And look at the difference. 5x7 compared to the A2. But that stencil on the right does actually line up with the die cut on the left. So I hope you have enjoyed seeing these 2 different ideas from this collection, 2 different ways on how to use them, but always remember you can also combine them. So that's 3 different ways you can use these two products to make 3 different designs. And that's the beauty of having products. And there's the inside that I used. Have an amazing day, my friends. Bye bye for now.